Kia ora class. Today we're going to be talking about socioeconomic status and participation. Our learning intentions for today. Today we are examining the societal influence of socioeconomic status and describing the implications of this influence for ourselves and for other people. What is socioeconomic status, I hear you ask? We're going to start with a definition. Socioeconomic status is the social standing or class of an individual or group. It is often measured as a combination of education, income, and occupation. And that definition comes from the American Psychological Association website. Essentially, socioeconomic status is about comparing how well off you or your family is in terms of your ability to make money. Okay? And they look at your ability to make money as a combination of how well educated you are, how much your income is, and what sort of career or occupation you have going forward. How and why does socioeconomic status affect yourself and others? We're going to watch a video called The Race of Life. Okay, you may have seen this before, but there's a couple of specific things I want you to be thinking about as you watch this video. Okay, the first one is, how do people's answers to this guy's questions affect their ability to participate in physical activity? And why is this the case? So 2 simple questions to think about as you watch this video. Here we go.
Hey, line up! Line up! Everybody line up! We're about to race! Everybody line up! Shoulder to shoulder! Take off your backpacks! Basketball, line up! We're about to race! Hey, we are racing for a $100 bill. The winner of this race will take this. A $100 bill. Before I say go, I'm going to make a couple statements. If those statements apply to you, I want you to take 2 steps forward. If those statements don't apply to you, I want you to stay right where you're at. Take 2 steps forward if both of your parents are still married. Take 2 steps forward if you grew up with a father figure in the home. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a private education. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a free tutor growing up. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to worry about your cell phone being shut off. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to help mom or dad with the bills. Take 2 steps forward if it wasn't because of your athletic ability, you don't have to pay for college. Take 2 steps forward if you never wondered where your next meal was going to come from. I want you guys up here in the front just to turn around and look. Every statement I've made has nothing to do with anything any of you have done. Has nothing to do with decisions you've made. Everything I have said has nothing to do with what you've done. We all know these people up here have a better opportunity to win this $100. Does that mean these people back here can't race? No. We would be foolish to not realize we've been given more opportunity. We don't want to recognize that we've been given a head start. But the reality is we have. Now, there's no excuse. They still got to run their race. You still got to run your race. But whoever wins this $100, I think it'd be extremely foolish of you not to utilize that and learn more about somebody else's story. Because the reality is, if this was a fair race and everybody was back on that line, I guarantee you some of these black dudes would smoke all of you. And it's only because you have this big of a head start that you're possibly going to win this race called life. That is a picture of life, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing you've done has put you in the lead that you're in right now. When I say go, On your mark. Get set. Go.
All right, so interesting little video there. The first thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to be a little bit critical of that video. We're going to ask some hard questions rather than just accepting everything as pure truth and knowledge. So, almost certainly everything in that video was staged. It's made out to look like he's just got an average group of people come in and he's got his money and just some random people that he's found. They're probably all actors, or they've been asked to act in this video for this person producing it. Second thing is, it's definitely themed around America, and they've picked very American issues to focus on, the difference between black and white, or private versus public education, or athletic versus academic scholarships. Yeah, those are big issues in America, not as big in New Zealand. The talk is all focused around race. He's saying that race is the deciding factor. Well, actually, if you look at some of those questions, they're actually about the person's socioeconomic status. And there was some mixed ethnicity people throughout that race. Yeah, he was saying it's because of their race. I would argue it's because of their socioeconomic status. And last, what is their agenda? Why has this person made this video? Okay, maybe not very clear, but we do have to keep that in mind, that maybe they have an agenda. All right, critique over. Now onto the useful stuff. What useful stuff can we pull out of that video? So he's suggesting that how well off a person is, their socioeconomic status, can be affected by the following things. These were his questions. One parent versus two parents being in a family, okay? Private versus public education. Free tutoring. Bills being unpaid and basic services being cut off. Children helping out the parents financially. Children actually earning money and contributing to paying the bills, paying for food, and paying for the household. Having access to that higher education, to university or college as they call it. And food security, always having food available in the house. So those were his questions. Those were the things he was asking about. And a person's answers to those questions will be a good indication of where they sit in terms of their socioeconomic status. Are they high socioeconomic status? They have access to education and food security and money they never had to worry about? Or are they low socioeconomic status? Those were real issues for them, getting a good education, or struggling with money, having food, having internet and power and a cell phone. If those things weren't really in the household, then that's an indication that that person was of a low socioeconomic status. So how and why does socioeconomic status actually affect ourselves and others in terms of physical activity? Generally, we see the following. Low socioeconomic status means that there is less disposable income, less money to spend on things like entertainment and leisure, physical activity and sports, and less opportunities to access that physical activity in the first place. Whereas a high socioeconomic status usually means lots of money to spend on whatever we like. We can go spend it on sports, we can go spend it on physical activity, cool. Greater access to activities, just having money in the first place opens up a whole range of options. It opens doors for us in terms of what we can access and what we can participate in. And generally, higher socioeconomic status, we see a higher quality of the opportunities and physical activities. We've got to challenge some of these assumptions though. So that was generally our last slide, but that's not always the case. Are people with low socioeconomic status often given extra opportunities to try and make up for their socioeconomic disadvantages by the government, by scholarships, or by community projects? Let's build something in that low socioeconomic neighborhood so that people can access it. Is there a way of countering that? Are people with low socioeconomic status more likely to appreciate and fully engage in the opportunities they get because their opportunities are fewer and farther between? So if someone can only afford to play one sport at high school, they can only afford to play one sport, are they going to be fully engaged in that because that's their only opportunity? Versus someone who, they can play everything. They've signed up for every single team they can imagine because, hey, money's not a problem. But Will they be fully engaged in all those opportunities and all those activities? Are people of low socioeconomic status actually just as active as everyone else? Are they actually just as active? And it's just that we don't see it because they don't participate in the traditional ways that we're even asking about this. Can they be just as active as everyone else? Rather than playing for a sport club, which costs money, maybe they play just with their friends and they're still just as active, just as much, doing the same things, just not quite in the same way. And lastly, should access to physical activity, and by extension the health benefits and the things that come with physical activity, should that even have a cost? Or should that be free to every single New Zealander? Should everyone in New Zealand, regardless of how well they are off in terms of money, should everyone have that access? So some themes. We're going to finish with some themes. Commodification. Are the costs around certain physical activity increasing due to commodification? And is this making it harder for certain groups to access those physical activities? Sexism. Do men and women have equal economic rights and access when it comes to physical activity? And could always talk about healthism, the body, globalization, or youth culture if you so desired. That brings us to the end of today. Hopefully you've enjoyed our little talk about socioeconomic status, what it is, and how it affects the participation of yourself and others.